Okay, welcome to the iPad podcast. This is episode 62, and today is July 10th, 2011. And there's a lot of stuff to discuss regarding the iPad, so let's get into it. And remember, this is a chit-chat-free, commercial-free podcast. And also, there's a video version of this podcast that I put on YouTube on maxfuture.com channel. This is Lex. It's also on Blip TV. It also feeds into iTunes as Apple Things by Max Future, and that has both the Apple podcast in a video format and the iPad podcast in a video format. And a video format is basically I do screenshots and some screen recording of the stories that I'm looking at, and I try to incorporate some of the products or apps that I'm discussing. So check those out. So here we go. Okay, so the first story to discuss is that the Apple iPad may have a competitor, a real competitor, from Amazon. And we're not talking about the Kindle. There's a new story out that came out, I guess, on July 8th, 2011. I'm reading about it here on PC World. And basically there's a rumor that in the third quarter, and this comes from DigiTimes, that Amazon will come out with an ambitious tablet that will rival the iPad. And basically, they say that Amazon's CEO Jeff Bezos has alluded to such an iPad competitor by saying, "Stay tuned," when questioned directly on the matter by Consumer Reports. So, to some extent, I could see Amazon possibly being a competitor. Now, Amazon doesn't really have a real great history of creating applications or operating systems or hardware. Sure, it made the Kindle, but the Kindle is a somewhat limited ebook reader. It really isn't a full computer. And so I don't know to what extent Amazon will have that power. Maybe Amazon will partner with Samsung or some other hardware and software manufacturer. But the real magic of the iPad and the iPad 2 is how the hardware and software all come together. So, I think this is going to be very interesting. Now, the one thing Amazon has going for it that Google or Samsung or other tablet manufacturers do not is that Amazon has the potential to have content ready to go on a tablet. And content is really everything. Look, the iPad has content from iTunes Store, plus all your music plays on it. And Amazon Online has the second biggest digital music store and video selling store after Apple. So, Amazon could integrate that into such a tablet. They could also integrate all the Kindle stuff. I mean, all the Kindle ebooks are integrated through the Kindle app into the iPad and the iPhone. So it's not such a shot to see Amazon trying to compete in that category. So I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon came out with that. Now, query, I think they're going to have to try to match Apple head-to-head or even undercut Apple. So we'll have to see what will happen. But if there's anybody who can compete, I could see Amazon trying to do it. Now, good news if you want to get an iPad 2, or you want to get a second iPad 2, or people like your family members or friends who want to get an iPad 2, because it looks like the mother of all backlogs, according to CNET.com, it looks like the mother of all backlogs is now gone, or it's been slightly improved. Now remember, when the iPad 2 first started coming out, it was in the spring, there were huge waits. At one point, there's like 5-6 week waits. Well, now if you go to Apple's website, the wait is down to, I believe, 3 to 5 days. So that's a huge improvement. You can get it basically within a few days or a week. So that's good news. That means that either demand has slowed down and or Apple's production has improved. But either way, for people wanting to get iPad, the wait has really gotten shorter. So people are going to get these iPads a lot quicker than they did before. So if you want an iPad 2, I guess now's the time to order. You don't have to really wait that long. Speaking of the iPad 2, there's some indication you might want to wait before getting the iPad 2 if you're not really itching for it, because there's some indication there might be a better iPad 2 or an iPad 3 this fall. So there's a number of stories floating around this week, and I guess some securities analysts. PC Mag reports in a note to investors that FBR capital markets analyst Craig Berger said evidence such as requests to component suppliers indicates that Apple will introduce the marginally different device in late 2001, something that people are calling the iPad 2 Plus. And basically, they're saying that the new iPad 2, which would be iPad 2 Plus, would have a higher density pixel concentration. Currently, the iPad 2 has a pixel density of 132 pixels per inch, and that it'll increase to 250 to 3,000 pixels per square inch for the iPad 2 Plus. But this guy Berger says, however, he isn't certain this report is true. So this is based on requests to component suppliers. So what Berger says is, while we find this new commentary interesting, we await more confirming data from points from other supply chain contacts before fully believing a new iPad 2 is coming in 2011. And I mean, there's been rumors since last March that a new iPad 2 or a new iPad is coming in the fall. You know, another source that's cited by Digitimes said that Apple is shipping 5 million touch panels in June and is expected to ship an additional 5 million in July. So they're really ramping up shipments of the iPad 2. And I don't know, I gotta tell you, I'm kind of torn. I don't know why Apple would really release an updated version of the iPad 2. It's selling really well. Obviously, if there's a wait still of 3 to 5 business days to get it, that production cannot keep up with demand. So why would they come out with a new version? Isn't it going to totally piss off people who bought the iPad? And it's not like the competitor tablets are really selling well. So I'm kind of skeptical of whether you should, you know, whether an iPad 2 Plus is coming in the fall. If you really have been itching to get an iPad 2, now's the time to get it. Okay, so this next article I saw makes kind of kooky points and is kind of senseless, but does raise some points I think we should discuss. And the headline is, Secret, iPad 3 hides iOS 5 Easter eggs until its release date hatch, from Beat Week magazine. So here's the point of the article. The point of the article is like, oh, most likely the iPad 3 is coming out in the spring, and right now the iPad 2 is out, and it's going to have iOS 5 on it in the fall, and ooh, Apple's going to have to do something to get people excited about the iPad 3, you know, and make them want to, you know, buy it, or make them excited about the iPad 2 because it's already out, and why wait for the iPad 3? None of this makes sense, okay? And their point about there being some sort of Easter egg in iOS 5 for iPad 3 is also silly, because their whole point is, oh, iOS 5 comes out in the fall, and there'll be some upgrades by the time iPad 3 comes out, and there'll be some Easter egg. And they don't even say what the Easter egg is in the software, where obviously Apple innovates, and even within one generation of the iOS, there's all sorts of new developments and new stuff. I mean, remember, AirPlay came out in iOS 4 after iOS 4 came out as part of one of the upgrades. So it's not like, you know, boom, everything has to come out when iOS 5 comes out. And then they go on to say that the iPad 2 is just a minor upgrade. Well, I beg to differ. I think the iPad 2 is a major upgrade from the first iPad. One, it's much thinner and it's lighter than the first iPad. Two, it has cameras in it, both in the front and back. Three, it has much faster processor. It has a dual-core processor. So those three things make it, like, to me, a major, major improvement. So I don't know why they said it's a minor improvement. Clearly, the iPad 3 is going to have better features. Here's what I think the better features, which you can just bank on. It's going to have a more powerful processor. That's a given. It's most likely going to have more storage because, you know, right now the maximum storage is 64 gigabytes. There's a good chance if they can do it with price and quantity, it'll have a higher pixel screen. So this is kind of silly. You know, at a minimum, you can expect that every year the hardware is going to improve, and maybe they'll go like every half a year in terms of improvement. But for now, you know, this Beat Week magazine article is kind of silly. Okay, so the big news for those having iPad 2s is that this week, finally, a jailbreak became available. That is, an untethered jailbreak became available for the iPad 2. Up till now, the jailbreakers had been thwarted or couldn't figure out a way to jailbreak the iPad 2, which I guess had different hardware or different firmware or different something from Apple that prevented the jailbreaking. Now, for those of you who don't know what jailbreaking is, and I don't recommend this unless you're willing to take the risks with jailbreaking. Jailbreaking is not illegal because the Library of Congress said it's okay, but jailbreaking might not be viewed by Apple as okay and might not be supported by Apple. That being said, I've previously jailbroken iPhones and iPads, and when I had a problem and I had to reset it and I couldn't reset it at home, I just took it to an Apple store. Nobody asked me any questions. I said it just wouldn't start. Could they reset it? And they did. So it's sort of like a don't ask, don't tell policy, you know, with Apple stores. If you just go in, they'll restore, you know, because remember, jailbreak's just a software thing. So what is jailbreaking? Jailbreaking basically installs an alternative app store on your iPad or iPhone, and then you can put apps on your iPhone or iPad that don't go through Apple's store. And so, in other words, there are apps that Apple, for various reasons, will not approve in its store that you can get through the Cydia store. And there's a whole range. Well, I said Cydia store. Cydia is the main jailbreak app store that's installed generally on your iPhone or iPad or other iOS device when you jailbreak it. Now, my iPad 2, since I got my iPad 2, has not been jailbroken. And instead, at some point, I put the next version of the iOS 5 beta, into the iPad, just so, because I had a membership in the developers program, and I wanted to just see how it worked. And this week, finally, the people, some of the people behind jailbreaking came out with a very elegant jailbreak for the iPad 2 and other iOS devices. But you can't jailbreak it if you have the iOS 5 beta. You have to have the latest version of the, you know, what's for the public, the iOS for the iOS devices, and that's iOS 4.3.3. And maybe 4.3.2 and 4.3.1. But basically, the jailbreak's very elegant, because what the jailbreak is, and if you're looking at the video version of this, the jailbreak is you're on your iPad or iOS device, and you go to www.jailbreakme.com. And if you're looking at the screen recording here, there's a very elegant website, and it basically just says, you know, Cydia. And, you know, it's basically you just click install, and it goes in. And boom. Like in the past, it was much more complicated. When you would jailbreak, you'd have it connected to your Mac into iTunes, and you'd download a jailbreak program, and it would run your iPad or iPhone, and it would reboot it, and you'd see all these funny, like, text that makes you nervous. And then finally, after several minutes, it would install Cydia app. But here, it was just like, very quickly, it was just like, boom, Cydia installed, it rebooted, Cydia was there. And Cydia is the App Store. So let me give you a look to see what it looks like from your iPad when you go to jailbreakme.com. Okay, so when you go to this website on your iPad, this is exactly what it looks like. You basically see this Cydia icon, and there's a button that says free. And all you do is you click that, and it downloads, and it installs. And it's pretty cool. So let me just show you what app you get when you install it. Okay, so when you go to, I guess, your iPad, after you've downloaded this jailbreak, you get this app, and it's the Cydia app. And let me just show you what, you open up Cydia. Now, if you don't have an account, I already had an account with Cydia, and it says, welcome to Cydia, and these are some of the apps you have within Cydia. And again, you only want to do this if you're comfortable, because again, there is the possibility that your iPad won't work after you you jailbreak it. I mean, you never know what could go wrong in the process. And theoretically, Apple could say, no, it's tough luck. But the reality is, it's only software. And frankly, if you get somebody at Apple, most people at an Apple store will like reboot the thing. And most likely you'll be able to reboot it. So look, this is the Jailbreak App Store. It's very different than the Apple App Store, as you can see. Now here, there are apps also for the iPhone that also work in the iPad. And I'll just tell you what apps that I have. I have, this comes with it. There's something called Activator. And basically Activator allows you to activate commands from finger swipes on the iPad. So basically Activator, you can like, if you downloaded it, it can trigger different actions and shortcuts. Like, let me show you. So if you go to your settings, if you see here now, you've got like this new section of the settings called extensions, and that's where the jailbreak settings go in. So for Activator, if I click that, look, I have now different settings. Like if I want to activate something from anywhere, I can, for example, the home button. I can say that the home button, when I double press the home button, I can have it do different things. For example, it's almost like programming your computer. When I double press the home button, I want, let's say, FaceTime to be activated. So that's kind of cool. So you could like put a setting in there so that if you double click the home button. So this Activator program is very, very powerful. Or for example, I could say double pressing the home button and my Notes app launches. Maybe I use the Notes app all the time. Or let's say, you know, I want certain apps to launch. Like all my user apps are here. So I could say when I put that setting, I have let's see, you know, here's an app, the Bing for iPad. Okay, so I'm going to click that and let's just test it, right? So I check that. That's for double press the home button. So let's go here and I will double press and look, the Bing app went up. And I'm going to say I don't like them to know my location. But anyways, the Bing app went up. So that's very cool. So let's go back to settings. Here is the double press. I don't want the Bing app, so I'm going to uncheck that. When I go to, let's see, I'm going to uncheck the Bing app. I don't want the Bing app. There we go. You just uncheck it like that, and that's it. But this Activator thing, which is, I guess, I don't know if it's free, but it came with another app that I installed that I'll show you, is very cool. So, I mean, look how powerful it is. You could have an activation happen when you connect it to an AC power source. So you could say, when that comes on, I want Pandora radio to go on. Or a clock to go on. That would be kind of cool. Or you could do it so that when you slide screen from the bottom, or slide screen from the bottom left, or slide this, do a sliding gesture from the screen bottom right, that triggers it. So it's very cool because you can have all sorts of things be triggered by this Activator button. So that's one reason to jailbreak your iPad. Very cool. Okay, so another reason I jailbroke my iPad is to get another app called DisplayOut. And I think that cost a couple of bucks, and it's from the same, well, it's from a developer named Ryan Petrick in Canada. Now, what is DisplayOut? DisplayOut will basically allow you to display anything out of the iPad that's on the iPad. Now, right now, with AirPlay, certain apps that are AirPlay enabled will through the wire connection of an HDMI cable or AV connector connect out and play on another, display. But only AirPlay enabled apps. So, for example, if you just wanted to show someone on a screen connected, a big monitor, how your iPad works, you're not going to be able to do it because only certain AirPlay-enabled apps like I think Keynote, for example, or certain apps that are enabled for video out can do it, like Keynote, which is the the PowerPoint-like app that the Apple has. That'll display out, but there's a lot of apps that don't, and DisplayPort will allow you to do that. Now, DisplayOut may not be as necessary when iOS 5 comes out, because iOS 5 has mirroring, wireless mirroring capabilities in it. So you can wirelessly mirror anything that's on the iPad to, and here's where the limit is, to an Apple TV. So that's a limitation, because you would have to have an Apple TV on the receiving end, and you'd have to get an Apple TV and connect it to another monitor. But you're not going to have full hardware mirroring out of the well, I'm not sure. You might have hardware mirroring out when iOS 5 comes out, but there might be, again, some apps that don't take advantage of the wireless mirroring. There may be some content providers like I don't know, Time Warner Cable or Netflix, or, well, not Netflix. Let's say HBO Go. I think HBO Go does not work with the wireless mirroring, according to people who are testing it. But the beauty of DisplayOut is people don't have a choice. It just hijacks whatever is on the iPad and sends it out through an AV or HDMI out connection. So it's very cool, and these are settings, and DisplayOut is not an app, it just goes into your settings. So here are the settings. You can enable it or disable it. You can have the orientation follow your movement or be stuck in either one direction. Follow springboard, portrait, landscape left, landscape, landscape right, upside down. And also you could set the maximum resolution. If you have, you might not want to send out 1024 times 768 HDMI out, but that's the default, but you can go to a lower setting, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it runs quicker if you do that, but you can also send it for 720p, or if you only have VGA out, you can do it 800 by 600 or 640 by 480. So there's a number of settings. And remember, you could also, I guess, have DisplayOut like triggered by some gesture. And you can change the aspect adjustment. That's the scale. The horizontal offset can be changed. The vertical offset. That's particularly good because some TVs or big plasma TVs might not, really line it up correctly. So you can adjust the horizontal offset and the vertical offset. So look, if you're into projecting on a big projector or a TV, something big, it might be worth jailbreaking the iPad just to be able to use those apps. For example, there's a lot of apps that, professionals like lawyers use in court that they could then use with this to display stuff in court. But there's other apps too that teachers could use, basically a teacher could use this to show every aspect of the iPad or particular apps or anything, and DisplayOut just makes sure it happens, because Apple, even when it goes to the complete mirroring out, I think it still gives some apps the ability not to opt in for the mirroring out. So this gives you complete control. All right, so let's go to another app. The other app that I downloaded that I like a lot, I put into my favorites, is Display Recorder. And what is Display Recorder? Display Recorder, this is what it looks like when you open it. Basically, it allows you to do a movie screen record of your iPad. And it also has another feature, and we're looking at the screen here, which is if you wanted to, you can, through Wi-Fi, have whatever's on your iPad be shown in a Safari or any web browser. And actually, I'm recording the iPad using Display Recorder now, because what's going on is I'm doing a video of of what I'm seeing on the iPad. It's going through Wi-Fi to Safari, and then I'm recording it using a screen recorder on a Mac. So I'm using a Mac that uses a screen recorder to send it to the browser. So Display Recorder does two things. It'll actually record a movie that you save on the iPad, or it'll allow it to interface with a computer and wirelessly send whatever you see to a browser. Now, that plus mark there, if I click that, that will start with a window that says, do you want to start recording? And if I click record, it will start recording. I'm going to press cancel, and then when you're done, you can go to the display recorder to stop recording, or you can, in the activator, assign a gesture that will start and stop the recording, so you don't have to go to display recorder. You just do a gesture, and the gesture could be like you double click the sound button or something. But let's look at some of the other features. The settings for display recorder are actually in the settings of the whole iPad under display recorder. And if you look in here, you can control the frame rate, which is really now at 20. The rotation, apparently it doesn't automatically rotate as you move it around. So you have to decide what way you want to record it. I picked here landscape left, which means that the home button, I believe, is on the left. And then you have a video format. Now there's two different video formats, and they're significant. One is just called MJPEG AVI stable. When it first came out, that's all it had. The problem with that one, that's the stable one in the official one that's supported. The second one is H.264 movie, experimental. Now, and that's part of an update. Now, the problem with AVI stable is it's a nice movie format, but here's the problem. You can't then watch it or use it on your iPad. All you can do is transfer it out of your iPad, either to your computer or upload it directly to YouTube, your YouTube account. But you can't use it in the iPad. And I always, when Display Recorder first came out, that's all it had. And that was a little frustrating because I thought if it could, I would like to add sound, because Display Recorder does not record the sound. So let's say I wanted to narrate the little screen recording I did. I couldn't do it on the iPad. I would have to transfer it out of the iPad. But now it has this experimental H.264 movie mode. It can save the movie. You can watch it in Display Recorder, and you can also save it to your photo app, which means you can then watch it later. So Display Recorder is a very cool app, particularly if you are a developer and want to test your app and do screen recordings of it. Or if, I don't know if you're someone like me who reviews apps and talks about apps, or you want to just show a friend an app, you can record it. The beauty is in the experimental mode, which to me works okay, you can save it in the photos area of your iMovie, which means, of your iPad, which means you can now import it into apps like iMovie for the iPad, where you can edit it and you can add sound. Other movie recording apps or editing apps like Real Director also will edit it. So you can do a lot more now with it. And there's different ways to activate it, like the activation methods work with the activator. So you could say when you double press the home button quickly, twice, it'll launch it. So I'm going to double press it now, and there you go. It gives me that thing. And well, it gives me, do I want to record, stop record, or cancel? So that's very cool. Now I also think there is a setting here that says you can, I think well, maybe I'm wrong. There was maybe, I think there is an activation method that just, as soon as it's launched, it starts recording and doesn't give you the, the question, do you want to start recording? But I can't seem to find it. Anyways, it's another good reason to jailbreak your iPad. So consider doing it for that reason. Okay, so I'm looking at the Cydia store on my iPad, and another reason to jailbreak is some of these other apps. And one that I haven't reinstalled, but that I used to have, but you might want to get, is, I think it's a free app called iFile. And what iFile does, it allows you to look and do stuff with files on your iPad that normally you wouldn't. Like there might be some apps that have, I don't know, PDFs or movies or other files, and you can't get to them. But what iFile does, it gives you a file manager and viewer, sort of like on a computer. And it's a file manager running under the user's root. And it works for the iPhone, iPod Touch, and now the iPad. And so it allows you to navigate through the iPad's file system, and you can view movies, sounds, text, HTML, PDFs, and you can email the file attachments, and you can even edit the text files and property lists. So the big thing is you have access to files that you normally wouldn't have access to on the iPad. So that's something you might want to get. There's other cool apps, including ones that now this one, MyWi, I don't know if you really need it on the iPad. Basically, it's $5, and it turns your 3G, if you have a 3G iPad, into a Wi-Fi hotspot. Now I know it works with the iPhone. No, and it appears to work on well, I think it works on the iPad too. Yeah, it does. I think it does work on the iPad. It definitely works on the iPhone, and it'll turn your iPhone into a Wi-Fi hotspot that you can then use with your iPad. Another jailbreak app that's kind of cool, also by the guy who did Display Recorder, Ryan Petrick, is RetinaPad. Now RetinaPad's interesting. It's $2.99, and it turns all your iPhone apps that are in 2x mode, remember they're in a lower resolution, well, it apparently does something to make it look like at a higher resolution, so it looks more like an iPad app. So I'm not sure exactly how they do it. Here are some screenshots. Let's see if we can get to the screenshots. So basically, you can see, so this is what it is with RetinaPad, and if we tap without RetinaPad, you see it's not as good. So I don't know, let's go back to, you can see it better on the, I'm screen recording off the browser, but on the iPad the resolution looks better. So this is without. It's a little grainy, and so the app does something to sort of boost the resolution. I don't know how it does it, but it's kind of clever, and I don't know, I'm thinking of getting it. It's only $3. Now some apps might not work with it, or some might look better, but you know, like Facebook right now doesn't have an app for the iPad. They're rumored to be coming out with one, and that might be a reason to get it. So, you know, there's other cool apps. They recommend also this 5-row keyboard. That's $3, and basically, you know, it gives you 5 rows, special characters on the first row, so you get a better typing experience, basically. The first row always shows numbers, so you can, you know, you can have a more fancy keyboard, basically, if you want to do this. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff. I've only installed a couple of these jailbreak apps. Here's an interesting one. I don't know if you recall, a while back there was an app that allowed you to download YouTube videos on an iPhone or iPad, and then Apple pulled it. And so you can get a similar app from for $5 from the Jailbreak app, and it basically, you open the YouTube app on the iPad, you find and tap on a video that you want to download, and then you tap the playing video and use the download button that has been added, and you can add to the iPod library. Well, anyways, it's you know, it's kind of a cool app, and it might be worth it if you're into YouTube videos and you want to save them. So this is sort of like what it looks like. You can download and save movies. So all in all, if you are a little adventurous and want to explore the jailbreak world, there's now this jailbreakme.com website, and you can try. It's very easy to jailbreak your iPad. Again, I don't endorse this. I'm just saying I've done it. I'm fine with it. But again, you should proceed at your own risk, because there is theoretically the chance that this will screw up your iPad, and theoretically the chance that Apple will not honor fixing your iPad. Again, my experience has been that Apple, I think the first time the iPad came out, like last year, I jailbroke it by other means, and in the process of doing it, I screwed up my iPad. I just went to an Apple store. They didn't ask me how I screwed it up. I said it was in the install process, because it was in the install process, and they replaced, well, they didn't give me a new iPad. They just have some device there that can truly restore the factory settings on your iPad if you're having trouble that you can't. So anyways, so make your own decision as to whether you want to jailbreak your iPad. I did jailbreak mine. Okay, so let's go to some non-jailbreak apps. Now, one app I want to discuss is actually the Microsoft browser app, which is, let's see, it's the Bing app, which is the browser app, and that got an update this week. And let's see, what is the update? Basically, the update brings something really new and kind of cool and innovative, and it's something called Lasso, or Lasso. And basically, when you're in the Bing app, and this is basically a search application, and it's free from Microsoft, called Bing, but they have a new feature, and some people are saying, look, even Apple didn't come up with this. And basically, when you're looking at text, like an article, you can use your finger to draw a circle, a lasso, around a word or phrase, and that then does an immediate search. So you don't have to cut, copy, and paste a text into the search bar. It just, you lasso something and it immediately goes there. So this is very cool, and let's see if I can demonstrate this if you're watching the video version. So I'm launching the Bing app, and here's the Bing iPad app, and I'll go to news. Okay, so you know the Casey Anthony stuff has been in the news. So let's see, how about the Murdoch story? So I'm going to click on the Murdoch story and watch this. If you look, if you're watching the video of this screen, at the top of the screen, like underneath the browser search box, there's a bar, and there's a bar that has, you know, the standard arrow if you want to email the article, and then a circle with an arrow. That's the refresh button if you want to refresh the browser. But there's another button that's essentially like a microscope with dots in a circle. And if you click on that, it turns orange, and the screen dims, and you take your finger, and I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to draw a lasso around the word Rupert Murdoch. There we go. Let's see. There we go. And you stretch it, and boom, it says check. There's a little bubbly noise, and boom, it put what I circled. Now I captured a little more than the name Rupert Murdoch. I had hand, comma, Rupert Murdoch. So it's not like incredibly precise, but look, it got all these stories on Rupert Murdoch. So it's pretty cool. Let's pick another Rupert Murdoch story. And so it's pretty cool. You can just use this sort of lasso, and Apple, you know, maybe you should talk to Microsoft. If Microsoft licensed this technology, it's a good cut and paste concept. Here, I'm doing it again. I just sort of, you don't have to draw in a circle your finger. Actually, it's not, you got to be careful where you place it. Let's say, let me shut that off, because it is a little imprecise, because you have to be very careful what you circle. And well, there's not a back button in the browser. That's kind of annoying. So look, there's some cool features here. The coolest feature is this lasso function, but it would be nice to go back on pages. There's not a real easy way to go back. I'm just going to go to the home screen, go to news, and I don't know, let's pick the Arizona Bus Day article here. So So one good thing is this lasso function. So I can zoom in by pinching and zooming. Let's see what happens if I pinch and zoom on an article and press the lasso. See, it gets a little... you can't, when you've zoomed in on the article, use the lasso. You have to... it doesn't look like it'll work. Let's see, I'm going to press the... Okay, now the lasso works. And you don't draw a circle around it. Rather, you put your finger like before the word and just sort of try to capture it. So I put my word around signing. It didn't really capture it. I don't know. I mean, here's another one. Edgar King. So I circled around that. Now, when the words are kind of small, it's kind of hard to capture it with the lasso. But here, the word Edgar King, the name, I did capture. So you might want to, look, Bing is free. You may want to download it and play around with it. So the big news with Bing is it's got this technology where you can put your finger and sort of create a circle around some words, and then that becomes the search feature. Okay, so I think I mentioned before, there's a kind of cool app. It's only 99 cents, called Dogfight 1951, and it's basically an aerial flight app. And I have been playing around with it on the iPad, and it's pretty cool. Basically, it's got a nice soundtrack. Let me put the sound down a little bit. But basically, you create a character. I'll create Danny Boy here, and tap to select. Done. And then you go on and tap to create a new character. Okay, so, and single player mode. I'm gonna play, and here it is. And so here's what's cool. It really does feel like you're flying, and you can tilt the iPad around and look at this. It looks like you're in the clouds and flying around. You've got a gun, and you can shoot. See, you're basically looking for airplanes, and you're going down. And it's got sort of nice imagery, and you got a throttle, so you can go forward. So you learn how to fly a little bit. So look, I'd say for 99 cents, this is very cool app. If you can see the video version of this podcast, you can see, see what I'm seeing here on the iPad. It really does have this sort of realistic feel to it. You're hunting around for airplanes. So again, it's only 99 cents. And, to me, I can see my kids and I playing this for a while. It's a very cool app. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention, if you're an iPad user, is that it looks like Google Plus has now opened up to everyone. Now, I think I mentioned last week that I got into Google Plus. And what Google Plus is the new social media service that Google has created to rival, I guess, the Facebook as well as Twitter. And it's very cool. And up till now, it's been very hard to get in. You needed an invite from somebody already in there. I got in because somebody already in there gave me an invite, and I got in while Google was letting people in. And I think now you can get in if you just have a Gmail account. So you should consider doing it. And you should consider also it's relevant to the iPad. Now, if you're watching the video version of this, I'm showing you my Google Plus page for, Lex at maxfuture.com. And as you can see, basically, here's the layout. When you're in the home mode, you've got your face picture. You've got on the left a bar of the various streams you created based on the circles that you have, the sparks, the chat, and then you've got the stream. And here the stream is basically everybody who is my friend or I'm following, and basically I just have like people I'm following. And so now if I click the stream circle, that's everybody I'll follow. But the nice thing is, in a somewhat limited way, you also have Google Plus on the iPad, and this is what it looks like on the iPad. So basically you have this sort of cleaner interface. It doesn't, you can't, and when it's in mobile mode, you can see the stream, so that's good. And you can, I guess when you're in a stream, you've instead of having like a circle to post in, you've got instead this pencil, which means if you want to write something, share your thoughts. So, and then you press that, you get the keyboard comes up, and you say, I am testing this on the iPad 2. And then you press return and post. There you go. Lex, I am testing this on the iPad 2. So, you know, you can do stuff like that. You can also, if you got that check thing, you'll check into someplace. If you want to, like, it's almost like Foursquare, you can check in. But one thing that's, frustrating is you can't, in the mobile version of the iPad Google Plus interface, you can't sort of create circles. You can see all the people, you can search for people. Let's search for, who are we going to search for who's famous I can follow? Ebert. Let's see if Ebert got in, Richard Ebert. And is it Richard Ebert? I think it's Richard Ebert. Let's go. Let's do a search. Richard Ebert. I don't think you can easily... No. But there's other Eberts. All right, let's just put Ebert. Let's see, suggested people. Well, it's not easy. You can't create circles. But the beauty of this is, though, if you go to the bottom of the interface, you can switch to desktop view. And on an iPad, desktop view isn't that bad. And so the beauty is on an iPad, you can use it just like a desktop. So you can create circles. So for example, I'm going here, and let's say people who, find and invite people, because that's the way I find people. So here's some people. Evan Williams. Let's see if I can drag Evan Williams into following. So you can actually drag on the iPad, if you go to desktop view, into circles, people. You can use your finger. So it's not bad. It's not a bad workaround. So I want to suggest to people that you can use Google Plus on your iPad, either in the mobile view or in the desktop view. Now, one thing that doesn't work is the Hangout. Hangouts are video chats, and on the iPad, if you click that, you basically get this web page that says, we're sorry, but this product is not available on your device. So, not everything in Google Plus works on the iPad. It'd be nice to have it enabled with video chat, because that's the big thing in Google Plus. Okay, so a report came out, I think, this week that basically said that the top selling, or the most apps that people are getting on the iOS devices, which include the iPad, are games. And sure enough, if you go within the App Store in the iPad section to the top charts, the top apps are games. For example, the top free apps are Angry Birds Seasons HD, Angry Birds HD, MyPad Plus. Well, that's not an app. So 1 and 2 are games. The third one is an app, but it's not a game. It's an app for Facebook. But the fourth one is Angry Birds Rio. So Angry Birds has 3 of the top 4. Then number 5 is Pages, which is a word processing app from Apple. But then the 6th one is a game, Flick Golf Extreme. And then Fruit Ninja, then Cut the Rope, and then GarageBand, and then 50 Places of a Lifetime, a travel app. So 1, 2, 3, 4, half of the top 10 are games. And then if you go to the free apps, number 1 is Racing Penguin Flying Free. Number 2 is Cave Bowling, which is also a game. And number 3 is USA Basketball HD. Then Angry Birds HD Free. So the top 5 are all games. Rose 3D for iPad Lite. and number 8 and 9 are games. So 7 out of 10 are games. And you know, not of the top grossing, Pages from Apple's number 1, but then number 2 is a game, Smurf's Village. Then a sort of a game, a role-playing game, Tap Pet Hotel is number 3. Then Angry Birds HD is number 4, and Tap Zoo, another game, number 5. And then a business app, and then a productivity app, Numbers from Apple, and then again another game. So the games are clearly more than half of the top charts, the top 10 charts. So I do think the iPad is a tremendous gaming device. And so let's take a quick look at what are my favorite games. Okay, so you might be new to the iPad 2 or the iPad, and so what are the apps that I can recommend you get as a game right off the bat? Well, one game that my daughter and I totally love is Super Stickman Golf, and I think it's only like $1. Let me check. Look, Super Stickman Golf is only 99 cents. So you should really consider getting this game because it's just a lot of fun. And it works on the iPhone as well as the iPad. So I put the volume down a little bit, but you have this kind of, let me put the volume up. You get this kind of fun arcade-like music. And you can play, I play just usually, you know, one person. But there is a multiplayer mode. And you can start off beginner. But basically it's a beautifully designed, it's highly addictive, and there's a practice tee if you want, but you start off and the controls are kind of simple. Let's see, let's go tee off, and I didn't even read the controls, but basically you got this like little guy on the left and you got these arrows and you're trying to get to the hole. And you gotta, so what you gotta do is use the arrows to aim the angle of your shot. So I want it to go sort of up, and then you've got this button called go, and you hold it down, and that's your wind up of your swing of your club. And you let go, if you let go when it goes all the way back, then it hits it the hardest. If you tap it quickly, it's like almost like a putt, and if you tap it in the middle, it's like a chip shot. So I'm gonna do it about, I don't know, I'd say halfway. If you're watching this video. So there I go. It hits it. Look, beautiful shot, hole in one. So that was easy. So at the beginning it's easy, and basically, you know, as you play it, they get more difficult. So after every hole, it shows you where you are relative to par. Here I've scored one hole in one. It was a par 2 shot. I'll go to the next one, and you know, it gets a little more difficult. There's a big hill. There's 2 hills. There's a gully. I'm gonna like angle the button up, and let's see what happens. I go. Oh, I didn't make it, and then I gotta hit it out of there. So anyway, so that's an app that I really like, and another one which I think it's like $10, but it's just fantastic. I've talked about it before. Is Real Racing HD, and that's just a tremendous game, and that you can mirror that on your you know, big screen TV, but it's a very slick interface, and it really does feel like you're you know, you're just bombing down you know, down a racetrack. It actually feels highly realistic, and you can buy different cars, you can earn racing money, and then with the money you buy better cars and you make improvements to your cars, and it's a really cool app. And so that's another one I'd highly recommend that you get. Another one that I really like, of course, Angry Birds. Everybody should get Angry Birds because you know, it's the app that's so popular. You're basically flinging Angry Birds at some pigs. Okay, so if you've never seen Angry Birds and are watching this video, basically, you know, it's a very nice screen, and you're trying to unlock different levels, and basically you have these angry birds, and you've got this silly music, and what you're doing is you're taking your finger and you're flicking the birds off the slingshot to crash into some glass or some structure, and you're basically trying to knock out these like pigs. And when you knock out the pigs, you go on to the next level. And let's see if I'll put the music up a little bit. You got nice sort of crashing sound of the birds hitting like the structure. And basically the goal is to kill or destroy these like snortling pigs. So if you're watching the video, this is sort of the gist of it. And this is what's captured everyone's imagination. And I guess there's a movie being made. So look, I didn't kill all the pigs, so I didn't go on to the next level. But, you know, Angry Birds is just going to be a couple of bucks. And you probably want to download that, as it's, you know, it's an experience you shouldn't really miss out on if you're into gaming. Okay, so another app that I highly recommend is Pinball HD. This is a couple of bucks, and basically you can see it either in portrait mode or landscape mode. In landscape mode, it's just traditional sort of, you know, pinball, but it's so much fun. It has all the pinball sounds, and you're basically clicking on these bumpers, and it's just like a real pinball machine. When you go to landscape mode, it has sort of more like a zooming in on the ball feel to it. So I like when you have the portrait mode, it has that like zooming in on the ball. But in landscape mode, it's like a real pinball machine. So this is something you should check out. It's only like a few bucks. It's made for the iPad, and it's really good. Another paid app you should check out that'll wow the people regarding the the iPad is MultiPong. I'm gonna play single mode, but basically it's like this, you know, it's this I don't know, this like, it almost feels like a wooden board really, and you're trying to keep scoring the ball from scoring by sliding your little sliders along the side. And you can play up to 4 people. I'm playing just with the iPad computer, and basically it gets harder and more balls come along, and it has the look and feel of like you're on a real board, and it gets harder, and it really feels like a little steel ball going around. So this also is like a few bucks. You should consider getting this. This will wow the people. You'll enjoy it. And the beauty of this is you can play with up to 4 people around an iPad. Okay, so finally, another game I can highly recommend that I play with my kids a lot is Train Conductor 2. Look, you basically have different tracks, and it's a game where you're trying to keep the trains going on different tracks and have them not crash into each other. And every time they can go through, they score more points, and you unlock different cities. Now here I've locked a lot of cities. So basically, look, here I've got the Q train on the wrong track, then I have the 4 train on the wrong track, and you can pause the game stops if you let the trains crash. So let's see, I've got the 4 train coming here. I got to take it to the 4 track. I've got the Q going to the Q, but then I got to stop the S so it doesn't keep going. And so basically, if you tap on the train, it stops it, and you can drag the train to where you want to go, what track, and it keeps it going. So it gets a little hairy as the trains increase. Here I'm surviving. So you score if you can. So you've got basically like 5 tracks, and you're trying to align the trains to the correct track. So that's another game. It's a few bucks. I highly recommend it if you've got kids, or particularly a boy. The boys love trains. You're gonna love this game. So it's only a few bucks. Okay, so before we end, let's go to some interesting news. And if you travel with your iPad, be particularly careful when you go through checkpoints, because it seems like there are some corrupt TSA workers. And it's an article that came out on July 8th that basically says the police found or caught or are prosecuting a TSA worker who stole iPads and put them in his place. And according to this is from the website cnet.com, But according to WSVN-TV, a Transportation Security Administration worker allegedly had a systematic scheme for removing passengers' electronics and selling them on Craigslist. In one incident, Broward County Sheriff's Office says that Nelson Santiago, 30, allegedly removed an iPad from a passenger's suitcase and then, stuffed it down his pants. This was allegedly witnessed by a Continental Airlines employee at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. In total, Santiago is alleged to have stolen around $50,000 worth of passenger possessions over a 6-month period, mainly gadgets of one kind or another. And so, look, people are going to a ridiculous length. These iPads are expensive, and it's unfortunate that people are stealing them. So be careful when you're traveling with them. And this is where Find My iPhone, if you have that installed, makes sense, because you can track down using the GSP location service that Apple has your iPad. On the other hand, someone this sophisticated stealing $50,000 worth of electronic equipment, he might be smart enough to completely shut down the iPad and reset it so that the Find My iPhone thing doesn't work. So again, be careful. Okay, well, thanks for listening to the iPad podcast. This is Lex at maxfutures.com. And again, if you want to help out this podcast and the video podcast, which is commercial free and chit chat free, I invite you to go to iTunes and give it a positive review, or some stars would be nice. And you're free to send me an email, and I actually welcome emails or questions or comments, and you can email me at maxfuture@gmail.com. And also you can call or leave a voicemail at 617-826-9676. And if you want to be invited to Google+, I think all you have to do is just log into your Gmail account. But feel free to email me at maxfuture@gmail.com, and I'll send you an invite for Google+. So thanks for listening, and see you next week.